Okay, looks like we are in. So, hi everyone, welcome to today's session of UPSC Buffet by Gallant IAS. So, let's get started. I think if you have been following the past sessions, you have come across an idea where why am I discussing these questions without having any proper subject-wise structure to that. The reason is that I just want to give you a beginner's guide or an entry to clearing or to mastering the art of clearing prelims, like we say. So it's just an entry. We'll be dealing deeper subject wise in the coming weeks. So this outlier sort of question and how to deal with them, these sort of questions and this particular approach with very little subject knowledge, we'll be winding up that session with today's and tomorrow's session, and post that we'll be dealing with an advanced mode of study and approach where we dive deep into the subjects, and they'll be dealt subject wise like polity, economy, environment, geography, etc. So stay tuned for that, and I really promise you that it's going to be a very fulfilling and very rewarding session for you. So stay tuned for that. I'll be finishing it very quickly. So that's it. So let's get started. So our first question, it's with reference to Web 3.0. Consider the following statements. Okay, Web 3.0. Oh, okay, it's from the science and tech and current affair. It's a club mix of both. Web 3.0 technology enables people to control their own data. Okay, in Web 3.0 world, there can be blockchain based social networks. Web 3.0 is operated by users collectively rather than a corporation. Okay, so the name itself, this Web 3.0, once again. The name Web 3.0 itself, meaning that it's a newer technology, just like Industrial Revolution 4.0, that is going to replace, or it's the next generation of technology of web or something. Because if something with a version number is mentioned, there is a good chance that currently we are in some state like 2.5 or something. Just the same with 3G or 4G. 6. If the question about 6G is being mentioned, meaning that it's going to be the next generation. So next generation things will have its own advantages and might have its own disadvantages, like anything. But from the name of it, we can say that it's going to be a next step or a higher step from what currently the web 2.0 holds. So that's the first thing, and let's read out the options. Web 3.0 technology enables people to control their own data. Seems like a very far-fetched idea in the first reading. Okay, in Web 3.0 world, there can be blockchain-based network. Okay, there can be blockchain-based networks. Yeah, of course, blockchain is a latest technology that has emerged since the crypto boom. And since then it has been used in not just crypto, in file management, privacy, encryption, and all sorts of things. So blockchain could be used. Blockchain AI is very synonymous to next generation of any information technology. So that could be right because it's given can, and blockchain is very likely. So 2 could be right. So options without 2 can be eliminated. So we are left with A, B, and D. Okay. Then Web 3.0 is operated by users collectively rather than a corporation. Okay. This also makes sense given the backdrop of more and more push and more demands for making or decentralizing and democratization of data. There could be a chance that it facilitates or provides users the freedom to collectively manage their own data or control their data. It is very much in line with the privacy norms that has been emerging up recently, and privacy concerns people are having with the penetration of internet and use of more digital devices to store data. So reading that 2 and 1 actually makes sense, and they are in a way connected. So 1 and 2 are connected. So if 1 could be right, 3 could also be right. So let's choose the options that has got 1 and 3. Okay, meaning we eliminated or the one without 2. So 2 is gone, and options with 1 and 3, meaning we are left with this one. As in, no, it's the right one. We are left with D. That's why I arrived at the answer, and that's it. One more thing, it's a very important thing. Sometimes there is a trend among aspirants, who go by the folk sayings, things like, when questions about technology is being asked, very likely all the statements will be right. that's the case in most questions, but be very careful because the wordings could be different. A slight change in wordings, an extreme statement that is not very obvious could be given, and it could easily go wrong. So pay close attention to extreme keywords and think connections between the options. If one could be there, three could also be there. There is no real reason to eliminate two and keep one. There is no real reason. So 1 and 3 make sense, is connected, and 2 is right. That's how we approach the answer, and we arrive at D. So 32 is D. The takeaway is obviously learn about blockchain, AI. AI has become a keyword, so you need to delve a little deeper into that. So it would be like neural networks, then LLMs, large language models, and GPTs, generative pre-trained transformers. How these work, how data is being fed, and how they are trained to teach, how they are trained to behave like or think like a human brain, things like that, and the potential they hold in their application across the spectrum of engineering and scientific applications. You need to be aware of that. These are the few things that you need to keep an eye on, and try to learn. Watch some YouTube videos. That's the best thing about blockchain. You don't need to know a lot about it, but just know that whether they are centralized or decentralized, and whether these things could be entirely controlled by government or not, things like that. Also, have an idea about digital currencies, how they work, okay, and cryptocurrencies. Don't make the mistake thinking that blockchain is entirely used for cryptocurrency. Blockchain is the technology that is being used in cryptocurrency, and it is not limited to cryptocurrency alone. It can be used elsewhere. Even in data management, we are writing in mains also, we say that to make the to make data driven decision making more easy, we need to have a blockchain based data network to prevent tampering and to protect privacy, and to ensure and to curb corruption also. Blockchain helps in curbing corruption, things like that. Blockchain based technology, learn more about that. So moving on, next question. With reference to polyethylene terephthalate, the use of which is widespread in our daily life, consider the following statements. If you know what is polyethylene terephthalate, you know, or at least you know what is PET bottles. It's the normal plastic jars or bottles, water bottles that we use. Jars and water bottles. That sort of knowledge is needed actually, because you need to have an idea about these sort of things, that the daily things we use, the kind of materials we get in touch with, because this is a daily utility stuff we use in kitchen, in our daily life, in all sort of accessories, electronic gadgets, etc. PET is used, not just PET, other forms are used. So PET is something we know, we have seen. The idea of picturizing a PET bottle really helps in solving this particular question. Okay, its fibers can be blended with the wool and cotton fibers to reinforce their property. Okay, imagine that particular plastic and imagining that being pulled like a strand, and okay, it could be blending with wool and cotton to reinforce their properties. Can be done, yeah. Okay, also the options are like given 4 options, only 2 of them are right, so it's very easy. Just find 1 or 2 to eliminate and we will be arriving at the answer. So containers made of it can be used to store any alcoholic beverage. Okay, this is a very extreme statement, and we need to think about it. Like think about alcoholic beverages. Usually they are served in glass bottles. That's the norm. Of course we see plastic bottles, but why are plastic bottles not used across these alcoholic beverages? There could be some reason, some sort of reaction might happen, or some sort of quality drop might happen. Something could happen. That is the reason why it is plastic bottle is not being used across the alcoholic beverage. Of course, glass is a novelty thing, and the element of cheapness to the plastic is there. That is there. But this extreme statement makes it feel like there are a lot of alcoholic beverages in the world. So it can be used to store any alcoholic beverage. Seems questionable, because we still use glass for the most part, glass bottles. So I don't think 2 could be right, but wait, let's go through the other answers. Bottle made of it can be recycled into other products. Okay, most plastics could be made into recycled into other products. Even those thermoplastic and non-thermoplastics like bakelite, they could be repurposed. That is there. So 3 seems likely. 3 and 1 seems likely. Okay, but just don't jump into the answer right away. Articles made of it can easily be disposed by incineration without causing greenhouse gas emissions. As with plastic, since PET is a plastic, this is the biggest hurdle with plastic. That is, once the plastic is being made, we can only repurpose it or recycle it. The proper disposal or degradability of plastic is the major challenge, and that's the reason why when the environmental groups are very much against the use of plastic, especially the single use ones, because the single use ones has got only, they could be used only once or twice, once per the standards. So there is very little life cycle, and the issue with plastic is that we cannot safely dispose them. That's the biggest issue. The burning them will cause emissions. Is there any plastic that you can think of, any normal plastic that you can think of that doesn't cause any sort of emissions or can easily be disposed? No, that's not the case. It's a very difficult thing to do. So 4 could be eliminated and 2 also can be eliminated, and we'll arrive at the answer as A. It's a simple question. If you think it right, you'll get it. There are few things like the extreme statement is given, and just because it's an extreme statement, just don't go by that. Just have an idea, okay, why we use other bottles like glass for storing alcoholic beverages, and there are a lot of alcoholic beverages across the world. So any alcoholic beverage means it could be something that has got a different mixture, can have sort of reaction. So just have an idea, okay, that's a big area and with numerous products. So any can mean can have some exceptions. So that's it. Answer is I think 2 is wrong, and it's I think 46A. Yeah, 46A. That's the answer. Yeah. You don't need to learn much about it, but just have an idea about plastics treaty that has been in news, and then the biodegradable plastics and also biodegradable plastics. Just learn about them. Just read and understand what is the difference and what could be done, things like that, how to dispose them, and are they really environmental friendly. That's kind of things you need to have an idea about. That's it. Moving on, next question, greenwashing. Okay, I think most of you will be able to get the answer right away, but I'll tell you how to approach questions like these in general. Okay, best describes the term greenwashing. When you hear something like greenwashing or any other keyword for that matter, just have an idea or just connect it with something that you have already heard. Basically, this is a term that is coined from an existing word, and that's obviously whitewashing. And the usage of whitewashing means we are covering up the anomalies or the not so good aesthetically pleasing parts of things with a white coat, so as to make it more appealing, visually appealing. In general, we don't know how that works or what works underneath. We are keeping the skin clean or the facade clean. So that's basically whitewashing means. It's not the process of whitewashing, it's a usage of whitewashing means. So basically that means we are creating a false impression. So that's the thing. Or we are creating an impression that is different from the reality. So that's given in the first itself, conveying a false impression that a company's products are eco-friendly and environmentally sound. That's exactly the answer. But just go through the other options also. Non-inclusion of ecological annual cost in annual financial statements of country. Okay, this is actually this could be called as an evasion, because it's non-inclusion of things. They are not giving a false impression, they are just hiding facts. That's evasion. Then ignoring the disastrous ecological consequences while undertaking infrastructure development. Okay, that's more like ignorance. It doesn't have anything to do with greenwashing per se. Making mandatory provision for environmental cost in a government project or program. This is a good thing. So greenwashing has got a negative connotation, and this is a good thing. So this cannot be right. So obviously the answer is 80A. That's how we arrive at the answer. Just connect. One takeaway is connect the term with similar terms and try to deduce their meaning, whether it's positive or negative. That's very important, because greenwashing, from the term of it, meaning that it's in a negative connotation. That's the reason why we were able to eliminate this one. You might know the answer of this particular question, but I'm giving you a general idea how to approach it. Having the sensing the negative or positive connotation or the meaning or the essence of that keyword really helps. So have an idea about that to question like this. Okay, so that's it. Moving on, next question. Okay, this is a very lengthy question, and you need most of you might not even know what this means, and it's perfectly normal. Even I haven't come across something exactly like this, and so I have to go through the entire options and work through it and work my way up to eliminate these options. So first one is resettlement of small farmer large field. Basically addressing land fragmentation, which is something that we hear again and again when it comes to India's agriculture problem. It's land fragmentation, and the solution for that is land consolidation. So small farmer large field, this is a good thing, because small farmers with large field means it's a good thing. There is less fragmentation and more consolidation happening. Okay, that is good. It's a good thing. So by the term of it, meaning that it's in a positive connotation. So resettlement of a large number of people uprooted from their countries due to war by giving them a large cultivable land which they cultivate collectively and share produce, which is a good thing and maybe right. Okay, let's keep it on hold for now. Many marginal farmers in an area organize themselves into groups and synchronize and harmonize selected agriculture operation. This is like consolidation of land consolidation basically. So this could be right also. Let's go through the other options, because it says best describes. Just because you think or read something that is very similar to this, don't just right away jump to it, because there could be something that is better suited for that. Many marginal farmers in an area together make a contract with a corporate body and surrender their land to the corporate body for a fixed term, for which the corporate body makes a payment of agreed amount to farmers. This is contract farming. It is different from small farmer large field. It is, in essence, it's somewhat similar, but it's different. But surrendering their land to corporate body for a fixed term, for which corporate body makes a payment of agreed amount, this is not very positive in its approach. Okay, so that one thing. And also I think this is the exact definition of contract farming. Maybe surrendering of land is not there. They will be they'll be entering into a lease agreement or an agreement, not surrendering. I don't think surrender is there in contract farming, but it's somewhat similar to contract farming. A company extends loans, technical knowledge and material inputs to a number of small farmers in an area so that they produce the agricultural commodity required by the company for its manufacturing process and commercial production. This is actually proper contract farming. So these two statements are somewhat similar, and there is no particular reason to choose between them. Also, they are not very positive in its regard, and there is no small farmers and there is no consolidation happening in this. There is no element of consolidation. Large field is not mentioned. Large number of small farmers in an area, there is no particular mentioning of consolidation happening. Then surrender their land. Surrendering a land to a corporate body doesn't really sound very positive, especially in Indian context or any other context, because there exists a conflict of interest between a corporate body and a farmer. So this is slightly on the negative side. This is okay, but there is no mentioning of consolidation. And resettlement of large number of people uprooted from there, okay, but uprooted member giving them large cultivable land, is it really the most practical way to go? People will be skilled differently. Not everybody would be a farmer. That's the very basic and I think very naive assumption to have, that giving them land is the basic thing. Land to cultivate is the basic thing. They can be upskilled. That's the one thing that if somebody actually want to rehabilitate them, will be doing. So this is also less likely. This actually makes sense. Many small marginal farmers in an area organize themselves into groups and synchronize and harmonize operations so that they work together as a single entity. Basically, small farmers organizing themselves and making themselves as big farmers with very less fragmentation and more consolidation. This is very much in line. Actually, we could eliminate this first, then eliminating this. If contract farming, it is slightly different. Also, there is no mentioning of consolidation or large field or anything, not explicitly at least. Then here it seems like a far-fetched idea. This is not very likely, and this seems very probable, very practical, and best fits the description of this thing. So B. Then moving on, next question. Which of the following statements best reflects the chief purpose of the constitution of a country? Okay. It determines the objective for making. Questions like these can be tricky, especially in polity. Polity is a subject that people associate themselves with UPSC and their capability to clear this examination. People think that if you don't know polity, you won't be able to clear it. That's partially true, but I wouldn't say that. Don't put your ego behind polity or any subject for that matter. Just approach the exam like an exam and clear or try to decipher the questions like that only. Use your logic. Don't let your ego overpower your logic. So first one, it determines the objective for making making of necessary laws. Seems right only. Okay, in India also constitution is like the lighthouse for making laws and provides the guidance for that. It enables the creation of political offices and a government. Okay, it enables, not that it mandates. It enables. Okay, it can enable. And there are countries without a constitution that has got political offices and government. So it defines and limits the powers of government. Okay, it defines and limits the powers of government. Okay, it secures social justice, social equality, and social security. Okay, in Indian constitution does all these actually, but the question is constitution of a country. Okay, that's the keyword. Don't just think like constitution of India is being asked. It's constitution, the principle of constitution. It's a very conceptual question and a very logical one also. So we'll start by eliminating it, because we need to find the best one, because all the statement seems right only. There is no particular wrong statement in these things. So first of all, it remains objective for making laws, necessary laws. Seems likely. Okay, we'll keep it aside. It enables the creation of political offices and a government. It is not really necessary, because constitution, there could be political offices and a government even in states that doesn't even have a constitution. So this is wrong. It defines and limits the power of government. This could be right, because having a constitution which is written or unwritten will have a set of laws or guidelines which actually limits the powers of a government, because they cannot go beyond that, because it's a supreme document in a country, whether it's written or unwritten, like the British, which is unwritten, or like India where it's written. It actually acts like a rule book for the entire operation of the government. It won't have elaborate laws for that matter, depending upon the type of constitution, but it actually defines and limits the powers of government, and that's exactly what constitutional government stands for, a government with limited powers. So in the first reading you might think that okay, limited power seems like a negative thing. Actually, in terms of governance, limited power or limited governance is a very positive thing, and constitutional government is the one with limited powers. Limited as in that is not powerful, but the limits of his powers with its citizens or the administration is limited by a constitution. So that's the meaning of limited. Don't think about like it's a weak government or anything. So this seems likely. It secures social justice, social equality, and social security. It could do that. Okay, that is definitely there. But securing social justice, social security for that matter, how come constitution can guarantee social security? Social equality, okay, it may or may not carry, depending upon the constitution. A country will have a constitution that could have a social equality in its mentioning, and it cannot. There is possibility of that also. As our assumptions of constitutions being very justice oriented is little far-fetched. Most constitutions are, I think almost all constitutions are, but it secures social justice, social equality, social security, especially the social security thing. It might not be a thing with constitution. So I could eliminate this, and I could eliminate this, and this and this, that is A and C. It determines the objective for the making of necessary laws. Could be right, but if you know, constitutional government is one where the limits of government are defined. So it's a factual thing. So thereby C is the right answer for this question. So it determines the objective for making of necessary laws is true, but in comparison to C, it is not the best statement. Had there been no C and some other random statement was given, this could have been right, but there won't be a thing, because constitution of a country is basically defined. A constitutional government is defined by the limited power nature of the government. So that's it. These sort of questions, these conceptual questions of polity, at least 2 or 3 will be asked every year, and most aspirants, even though you cover Lakshmikant, you will be finding it difficult to answer these, but stick with me. In the coming days we will be discussing about these concepts and how to understand them properly, and you don't need to go by the definition and remembering the definition or anything. Just you will be, once you hear constitutional government, you will be able to pick the right answer right away. So we will develop that sense in the coming sessions. So stay tuned for that. Don't worry. This question requires a slight amount of knowledge about constitutional government to eliminate between A and C. So with that knowledge, you can choose C. There is no particular takeaway. I'll tell you that follow the conception, follow the follow the PYQs, and my recommendation is to stick to the channel, stick to UPSC Buffet polity sessions. I'll be covering these in detail, so you don't have to look for any other source. It will be a I think maximum 1 hour session. I'll be covering all the questions like these, and you will be getting an idea. Can guarantee that. So that's about it. Then next up, Switzerland is one of the leading exporters of gold in terms of value. Okay, Switzerland has the second largest gold reserves in the world. Okay, there is one keyword. There are two keywords actually. First is Switzerland. Okay, Switzerland is a very wealthy country. It is known for its banking, the shady banking and the non-shady banking, of course. And it's one of the leading exporters of gold. Okay, being an exporter of gold doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the largest producer. That's the keyword, because we have seen that the largest producer need not be the largest exporter. In the case of India also, we produce a lot of things, particularly food grains, vegetables, etc., milk, etc., and yet we tend to import things depending upon the domestic consumption. So being an exporter doesn't really mean that the largest producer. That's not an obvious connection, so just have that in mind. Then in terms of value and volume are two different things. Imagine I'm exporting 1 kg of gold and I'm exporting 1 lakh worth of gold. The 1 lakh worth of gold is export in terms of value, and 1 kg is the volume. So volume remains constant, but value fluctuates. Okay, value could be changing, because I could imagine somebody is shipping 1 kg of gold 10 years back and I am shipping it now. The values will be different. So in terms of value, I'll be exporting more even if I am exporting less than 1 kg today. So that's a possible scenario. So thinking about all of this, Switzerland is one of the leading exporters of gold in terms of value. This could be a right statement. This could be right, because Switzerland, it has got its own industries and their banking systems, their bullion trade, etc. is there. So this could be right. Then Switzerland has the second largest gold reserves in the world. This seems very unlikely. First of all, most European countries are depleted of their resources. In general, they are depleted of their resources. That's exactly the reason why they went on to a colonial conquest. And having Switzerland having the second largest of gold reserves in the world is very unlikely. This could very well be somewhere in Africa, because most of the reserves of precious metals are there in Africa or South America for that matter, and for things like uranium, Kazakhstan is there, or maybe Australia for that matter. So Switzerland being in Europe, its geographical location, and having the gold reserve is strictly a geographical factor. It doesn't really got anything to do with the political structure or the wealth of a nation or anything. It's strictly a geographical phenomena, and the geographical location of Switzerland in the middle of Europe, it doesn't really add to the proposition of having the largest gold reserve, second largest gold reserve in the world. This could be wrong. So this could be wrong. So since this is a statement wise question, we can easily arrive at the answer as C. That's 86 C. That's how we arrive at the answer. Just export production and export, one more thing is there, export production and reserves of metals, of precious metals, critical minerals. Okay, production country wise top ranking countries in export production, reserves of precious metals, critical minerals, and radioactive materials. This is a key stat that will help. Again, save it for last month revision. Don't go for it right away. Just have an idea that these sort of things will be there, and at least learn the top 3 countries when in terms of export, production, reserves of precious metals like silver. Since silver is getting traction these days, question about silver could be asked. There is a good chance of that. Which country exports the silver, which country has the largest production of silver, and which country has got the highest reserves of silver, things like that could be asked. Then radioactive materials could be. So that's it. Moving on. Which of the following countries are well known as the 2 largest cocoa producers in the world? Just like that, we just discussed a question about export and production. Similar question is here. Here also, this is something that we won't be dealing or we won't be looking at, because cocoa is not a crop that we usually come across. It's a cash crop. It's used in production of chocolate, obviously, from the name of it, And even in Kerala also, we can see that there are cocoa plantations. This is where having an idea about a crop and the circumstances in which it is grown comes very handy. I've said that about other crops as well to you in terms of when a question of rice is being asked. So 2 largest cocoa producers. In Kerala also, if you know that in Kerala cocoa is being produced. What are the other cash crops that are being produced in Kerala? Rubber is there, then tea is there. And the reason why these plantation crops are being cultivated here is because of the high rainfall we receive compared to other parts of the country. So meaning that cocoa is a crop that requires high rainfall. So high rainfall, most plantation crops are high rainfall crops. So 2 largest cocoa producers, meaning cocoa being a high rainfall or high that is grown in equatorial or tropical regions. Just go through the options and see which are all the tropical or equatorial regions in regions. So Algeria and Morocco, it's definitely not equatorial. It's slightly on the drier side. Both of the countries are slightly on the drier side. Botswana and Namibia, they are on the tropical end, but they are on the drier side. We can see that they have got dry lands, savannas, so they receive little rainfall. Cote d'Ivoire, that's the Ivory Coast, and Ghana. They lie closer to the equator. I don't think their equator exactly passes through Ghana and Ivory Coast, both of them, but they lie very close to the equator, that's for sure, because they are on the Guinea coast. So Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, this could be right. Then Madagascar and Mozambique, they also receive good rainfall, but they are little further away from the equator, and thus making them getting a little less rainfall compared to these 2 regions. So cocoa is very much dependent on the amount of rainfall, and it needs high rainfall for its growth. So Madagascar and Mozambique also has got some dry regions, but it's also monsoon, similar monsoon like climate in Mozambique. I think Madagascar also has a monsoon like maritime climate. So this could be fine, but we have a better option here, because both of these countries are located close to the equator and they get more rainfall compared to these countries. These 2 are anyways gone. So Ivory Coast and Ghana definitely gets more rainfall compared to Madagascar and Mozambique. So cocoa needing more rainfall. I think C is a better option compared to D. That's how I arrive at the answer as Ivory Coast and Ghana. So this is where you can actually eliminate and use our logic to arrive at the answer. People might think that okay, cocoa might have been in some news and something was there and I missed it, and I should have learned that. Not really necessary, because the options given are in such a way that they're actually testing your geographical knowledge. So have an idea about geographical location, especially with regards to equator and tropics, Africa and Latin and South America. This really helps in solving most of the answers. Africa and South America, there are a lot of in Africa there are a lot of countries, so you need to picturize them, try to group them, which all belong to the dry region, which all belong to the tropical region, which all belong to the equatorial region, just like in South America also. Just try to map it. Okay, that really helps. Africa and South America, and that's all is needed for right now, and you can go for other like equatorial and tropical regions later. Start with Africa and South America. That's it. Then, how many of the above have poisonous species among them? Okay, butterflies, fish, frogs. Question is, how many of the above have poisonous species among them? Okay, butterflies, fish, frogs. Obviously we know that fish is there, frogs are there, so none is gone. We are left with option 3. So only 1, only 2, or all 3. This is anyways gone. We know frogs are there, at least by the looks of it, and we might have heard that like one of the most poisonous fish species in the world is a frog. So we know that dart frog is there, which has got poison. The same way, why does a species of insect or plant or an animal, even plants do have poison, so why do they have that? Mostly for the defense purpose only. So in a wild with these sort of diversity exist, species like butterflies, fish and frogs that are often predated by higher order predators, there is a good chance that most of them will have some sort of poisonous species in them. Not saying that there will be poisonous species, but the chance of having a poisonous species is very high. At least one will be there. You might think that okay, butterflies, they look so cute and they won't have poisonous species, but think about it, they do have their own set of problems and predators, so they need to adapt to that, and they need to have a survival skill to survive and pass on their genes. So butterflies also will have, and fishes will also have. I think stonefish is one I can remember, which I have seen in a documentary randomly. So stonefish is a one fish I know that has got poison in them. Same way, I think pufferfish also has poisonous neurotoxins in them. So fish and frogs definitely there. Butterflies also, it's highly likely, okay, to help them, save them from the predators. So it's 29C. It's a very general thing, just have an idea. Okay, is it possible to have? Imagine in place of this some other random animal is given, like maybe a monkey is given, then think about it. Okay, is it possible to have a poisonous species? But actually there are monkey species that has got poison in them. I think lemur, or I think Indian gibbon, or some other species of monkey does have as poisonous species in them. I'm not really sure, but just have an idea, think about it, whether it's possible to have poisonous species in butterflies, fish or frogs, and just arrive at the answer. It's a very general question. Have a clear head, and that's it. Okay, how many of the above are consider the following aircraft: Rafale, MiG-29, Tejas Mk1. How many of the above aircraft are considered as 5th generation fighter aircraft? UPSC has started asking questions like this of late, especially about aircraft. And the fundamental reason why they are asking questions about aircraft is because, I'll tell you a backstory, because India doesn't have a 5th generation fighter aircraft, and only a handful of countries in the world have fighter aircraft, 5th generation fighter aircraft. That's a keyword, 5th generation fighter aircraft. The most advanced ones we have right now are the Rafales, and I think they are 4th generation and 4.5 generation. So you need to know what is the 5th generation fighter aircraft, and which all countries have these 5th generation aircraft, and whether India is developing one or not. So that's the thing. But for this question, all you need to know is that India doesn't have a 5th generation fighter aircraft. This is always in news when it comes to Indo-China issue or Indo-US issue or anything of that matter. We know that India lacks a 5th generation fighter aircraft, and that's one of the biggest Achilles heel of our Indian Air Force. And that's one reason why we have been actively developing the AMC, Armed Multi-Role Combat Aircraft, which is a 5th generation aircraft that has been indigenously developed. Also the discussion of F-35, the transfer of F-35, and the one F-35 we got stranded in Trivandrum Airport is there. That's a 5th generation aircraft. Then another thing is Su-57 from Russia. There has been talk of indigenization of production of Su-57 here because of the Russia-Ukraine war, and Russia badly need some funding for their expanding their military provisions. So things like that have been in news and discussion. And there is one thing that is very obvious, is that India doesn't have a 5th generation fighter aircraft, and Rafale is one in which India have, MiG-29 is one India has, Tejas is one India made. So all three are made by is in India's hangars right now, Air Force hangars. I think MiG-29 has been decommissioned. The rest of two are there in our hangars, and meaning that none of them is a 5th generation fighter aircraft. So that's it. Very important one. Learn about 5th gen fighters, and names of them and countries, also their features. The major feature is that they have got stealth capabilities. Unlike the previous jets, most radars most radars or air defense system won't be able to identify fifth generation aircraft like the F-35, F-35 Lightning, then F-22 Raptor, Su-57 by Russia. These two are by USA. Then J-20 by China. Then India is developing the AMCA India. Things like that. Also South Korea and Turkey are developing. Turkey and EU are developing fifth gen aircrafts. Fighters. They are developing fifth gen fighters. So have an idea about that. Questions like this can come, not directly, but you will be able to eliminate few of these. There are only handful of fifth generation fighter aircraft in the world right now, and you have to know which all are there actually in use and which all are under development, and you can eliminate these when it comes to asking about some question comes anything other than these and given as fifth generation aircraft, you can easily eliminate that. The most advanced one is obviously the F-35 Lightning, which has been extensively used in the Gaza war by Israel. So it has been in news for wrong reasons or right reasons for that matter. So yeah, that's there. Also the F-35 is very likely scenario considering that the stranding of one F-35, the UK based F-35 in our hangars in Trivandrum, that is also there. So F-35, question about F-35 or a fighter, fifth gen fighter aircraft is very much likely. Also learn few about AMCA. Moving on, next question. Which of the following statement is correct as per the Constitution of India? Okay. Interstate trade and commerce is a state subject under state list. Okay. Interstate migration is a state subject under state list. Interstate quarantine is a union subject under union list. Corporation tax is a state subject under state list. Okay. First of all, the first reaction for anybody will be like, okay, I missed the 7th schedule and I didn't go deeply into that. I should have read about it, but UPSC has made it slightly easy for us with the options. First of all, interstate trade and commerce is a state subject under state list. Okay, even if you don't know, you can have an idea that anything interstate won't be in state list. Anything interstate will be mostly in the union list and maybe in the concurrent list, but mostly it will be in the union list. Just the case of water also. Water is an item in state list, but on the other hand, interstate rivers are a entry in the union list. The same way, anything interstate will be in the union list. That's the basic thing. So interstate and trade and commerce is a state subject. Actually, this is the one provision that has been used in the farm laws, the controversial farm laws. Interstate trade and commerce is one provision that's in the union list, which the central government has used to pass a legislation on that matter as farm laws back in the day. Interstate migration is a state subject. No, interstate migration cannot be a state subject. This is wrong. This is wrong. Interstate quarantine is a union subject. This could be right, but quarantine, yeah, it could be right. Okay, corporation tax is a state subject under state list. Even if you don't know, it's not there. It's not under the state list. So this is wrong, and this is right. The basic keyword is that anything mostly. In the most cases, interstate will be in the union list, and maybe there might be some exception, and then it will be in concurrent list only. There is very less chance of something interstate being in state list. There will be exception. I'm not saying that it's the case. We'll be diving deeper into the list and everything, and we'll be dealing the facts later. Just for the now, just have the logic that most interstate things will be in the union list. So that's it. Moving on, next question. We'll be practicing the mains question now. Analyze the role of local bodies in providing good governance at local level and bring out pros and cons of merging the rural local bodies with the urban local bodies. The question has got like 3 parts. Analyze the role of local bodies in providing good governance at local level. That's part number 1. And bring out pros and cons of merging the rural local bodies with the urban local body. Okay, that's the another part. Actually, there are 3 parts. It's in pros of merging local body and cons of merging local body. The structuring of this question wouldn't be that difficult. it will be slightly easy, because we know that local self-governance is something that we usually make notes of, and we learn extensively, and we write answers in GS2 especially. So we might have some content. It's all about packaging the content in a way that it best fits the demand of the question. So that's it. We look at a model answer. So 73rd and 72, this is the generic introduction that you can write to any local self-governance based questions. So I have mentioned this, but it's advisable to add a current affair or a case study or anything that is a bit more relevant along with that. You definitely have to mention this. Mentioning this does have a value, but try to add something more. At the same time, try to link with it. But I struggle with linking and bringing a current affair, because this is a 10-marker question and I cannot afford to write more in the introduction. So I just stick with the plain and simple 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992 institutionalized local self-governance through Panchayat Raj system at rural and urban areas across India. They aimed at for democratic decentralization through grassroots level democracy. These are the keywords that you need to sprinkle across the answer when you are writing anything LSG related. Democratic decentralization, grassroots level democracy, direct democracy through Gram Sabha, things like that. Role of LSGs in providing good governance. Analyze the role that is being given. So bottom-up approach, gender parity, 1/3 reservation, voice of people, and try to give examples for that. You will get a lot of examples. You could search the internet and you will be getting a lot of examples for that. So just mention that. Then I've mentioned about the Plachimada incident against the Coca-Cola plant. Then better service delivery, Indore, the cleanest city of India because of the Indore Corporation. You need to bring out the local bodies. Then that should include not just Panchayat, you can include the municipalities and corporations also. Then economic growth, particularly Brihan Mumbai Corporation, Bengaluru, Mahanagara Palige. These are the municipal corporation in metropolitan cities. Then since roles are being asked, I just added, I couldn't write it entirely. I just used a sun diagram to mention the challenges, which is actually, I should have made it more visible, but if you couldn't do that, if you cannot do that, just use a sun diagram and try to hit the question right. Don't spend more than half of this page writing the first part of the question, because the second part of the question is where the key holds. So you need to spend more time there, especially the pros and cons are being asked. You need to have at least 5 points each, like total 10 points in that regard. So moving on. The pros are like better availability of funds. Once you are merging local and urban bodies, you will be having more funds, and especially the panchayats or the village, the rural self-government bodies are struggling with finding funds. But while the case of municipalities and corporation, they will be having more funds because of their economic activities and the taxations and all sort of revenue they are getting from the assets they hold. Then the distributed development, reducing real estate crunch, developing satellite towns. Yeah, merging of these bodies can have a decentralization effect, de-urbanization effect, and decongestioning of cities. Uniform and continuous economic growth corridors, not like spurts of economic growth. Just a whole continuous economic corridors could be built when these rural and urban bodies are being streamlined, because they're across, they'll be having same laws, legislation, same clearance forms, etc. Reduced red tapeism, things like that will help. Also transfer of administrative expertise, because when it comes to rural local bodies, the expertise of those members might be less given the rural backdrop. While on the other hand, the corporations, they will be having more educated, more efficient due to the competition and the scale of things happening there. The expertise of the members there will be relatively high. So there will be a transfer of expertise happening, and thereby the local bodies will be raised to a level having expertise at par with those of the corporations and municipalities. But the issue is that subsuming rural authority, that's the fundamental issue. The rural bodies are kept separate from urban bodies is to protect their sovereignty or to ensure their authority. This actually violates the core ethos of Panchayat Raj and Gandhian vision of village republics. We can mention that. This is something that you could sprinkle again, just like I said, decentralization, grassroots level democracy. This is one thing you can sprinkle across your local self-governance answer, especially when it's asked about rural self-government bodies. Gandhian vision of village republics. You can use it in conclusion also. Then spillover effect of urban issues, like we cannot assume that urban bodies are doing really well. They have their own set of issues, and they have their own set of corruptions, mismanagement, things like that happening, and these issues could be spread over to the rural area, and they can they can both end up in a lose-lose situation. So that's one thing you can mention. Then reduce the representation of rural members, because urban counterparts will have a high advantage when it comes to these sort of bodies, and they will be shadowed by the urban demands and urban counterparts. So things like that will happen. I should be adding two, if possible. One more point is adding one more point is better, given it's explicitly asked. Merging can bring positive outcomes. A phased approach can be attempted. Yeah, we have to do is like the phased attempt we need to approach. Then transfer the expertise through training, upskilling of rural members. It's a very generic thing. Then you can add something like social stock exchange facility. That's an innovative thing which you learn in prelims. You can use it in mains. Social stock exchange for development of to generating revenue for local bodies through public credit or equity funding. So that is there. So I have mentioned that social stock exchange, at the same time upskilling of members, and phased approach. If you are given a question where something radical is being discussed, just recommend a phased approach. Okay, a phased approach, and then conduct an economic impact assessment and legislative impact assessment, social impact assessment, things like that could be mentioned. These are the very generic things that can fit well in any answer. So try to mention that phased approach. That's a very generic thing. It's nothing new or excellent or anything, but mentioning that really helps. So do that. So that's about it. So I really hope you got an idea about how to write an answer from these sort of questions that I have been discussing. I haven't discussed any subject-wise question because there is no point in discussing the subject questions about mains. That's something that you need to have a content about. But we'll be discussing questions that you have certain general idea about, and how to structure them, how to brainstorm them, and if you are studying, if you are preparing for mains or making notes, then how to approach it, how to tune your thought process so that you can better make use of your notes and make best of your time, rather than spending your time whole day just reading about things and writing answers but not evaluating it or not properly going through it. Things like that will help. So pay attention to the mains part also. Up until December, you need to pay some attention to your mains and make necessary notes and have these keywords mentioned somewhere there, so that you can easily get back at it once your prelims are done and you are ready for mains. So stay tuned for more. We'll be coming up with more informative sessions where more information will be given, because this is just a trailer for what we are gonna unveil in the coming days. So stay tuned for that, and get in touch with Gallant IAS if you need any assistance for this matter, whether or not you're in a prelims preparation or mains preparation. Faculties like me will be there, so don't shy away from that. Definitely get in touch with the Gallant IAS. So stay tuned for more, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.